Because now everyone can see and hear us. Dun dun dun. Hello, chat.
Hello
This is.
there.
Thanks.
I'm
uh,
sorry.
this is ILBC Feedback and Friends, your semi regular feedback stream with a variety of musical guests. I am Nathaniel Wyvern, if you don't know me, but given I hang out on EDMP Discord all the time, I suspect you are at least annoyed of me existing. This week we have Wobbegong up there on
Wobbegong.
the Wobbegong. Sorry,
Wobbegong, yeah, it's an Australian carpet shark.
this
Carpet
petition to
shark.
make me the
Yeah.
official feedback and friend host. I am basically the official. It's if it's not me, it's Isha, and if it's not Isha, it's me. And then we got Sunny Skies returning for the bazillionth time at this point. I know it's a bit odd having a feedback stream on a Tuesday, but this is because the EDMP challenge is the stream production stream and listening party is scheduled now for next week. Life happens, and I'm filling in basically to make sure that we at least have something on where we're meant to have something on.
Wobbegong.
Thank you very much.
Wobbegong.
Wobbegong. There we go.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much,
So the G is
Wobbegong,
silent.
for filling in at the last minute as a special guest. He was invited by Moldy Soul there in the chat, and if you'd like to tell everyone a bit about yourself and what sort of music you're into, it'd be great.
Well, I'm not quite sure where to start with that. I mean, I'm into all sorts. I'm well into my jazz music. I'm a professional guitarist, and I have a trumpet that I suck at. But yeah, I mean,
Actually, you blow that.
everything really, everything. Like, I mean, the music that I make, the electronic music that I make, is often hard to categorize. I like to go with the flow, mix a lot of genres. I'm into classical music, jazz, glitch hop, like teeth and throat singing, like
Ooh, glitch
you
hop.
name it, like anything, like really. Yeah, my influences are like
Broad
the
church.
spectrum of like noises.
Whole spectrum of noises. You should just
Yeah.
make that your tagline.
Yeah.
And how are you today, Sunny?
Well, I just got finished making really moist chicken, so, I'm pretty optimistic about today. I probably already said what I enjoy as music, but for anyone who hasn't seen me do stuff or make stuff, typically glitch hop is one of them. But I typically stick with walls of sound because I like just throwing really wide chords at people. Typically, I do a lot of dubstep because I enjoy the sound design aspects. House genres like progressive, I like modulating sounds a lot of the time. Trying to get better at it. And more recently, color bass. I've actually done a lot with color bass as of the last month for the monthly challenge. To include silence. I wanted to make a contrast between loud and quiet, and I figured melodic dubstep maybe mixed with color bass, because I wanted to mess around with that, would be good for that. And that's kind of what I've been up to as of the last month.
Sounds good. I will talk a bit more about EDMP Challenge shortly, and I think that now is a good time
What
to get
about your
started.
goals, Nathaniel?
What about my goals? My goals is just to
Yeah,
make it through
you've
the
been
day
here
and
every
not
single
pass
time,
out.
but you gotta...
I mean, I just like making music. I've been
Wow.
yeah, just like music. Oh, I'm sure we've got plenty
I
of
see how it
time
is.
for banter and secret divulging of secrets soon. We got Lotus up first with Bear the Blame work in progress. They're trying to get this one finalized, so any feedback on the mix is super helpful. Other than that, general feedback is greatly appreciated. And thank you for the feedback, is the comment ran. So this is Bear the Blame by Lotus.
inside your head now. Could you watch me? Watch me die. Could you sacrifice me to complete your mission? Could you watch me die? You have been called upon
to serve.
Serve.
So I'm gonna say read a couple of comments before I hand it over to Wobbegong for his thoughts. Sleeping Muse here saying, I don't know if it's aim quality or my headphones, but seems a little lacking in a treble. I actually think I agree with you. And I'm going to now pass it on to Wobbegong to see if he agrees and what else he thinks about that track, Bear the Blame by Lotus.
I don't think it's lacking in treble so much as that the at points the low mids are a bit much. I think actually some of the stuff earlier on, one of the melodies that came in, it sounded like on the high mids actually was a little bit too much, like a little bit kind of cutting through where I didn't quite like it. Yeah, I know I'm nitpicking because actually I absolutely loved that. I thought that was well good fun, but yeah, a little bit muddy to me. That's the main thing that I'm hearing is the low mids could be cleared up a bit.
Fuck here saying
That's
I dip more of the 200 to 300 hertz range.
Yeah, same. Yeah, but I think it's probably like on the individual tracks, cleaning up the low mids on the individual tracks rather than trying to like fix it with a master. Because to me it sounded like there's a lot of really nice sounds, good quality sounds, but maybe too many of these thick sounds on top of each other that could do with a bit more attention, listening to how is this sound affecting this sound, and maybe using an analyzer or something, maybe using some dynamic EQ or something. But I think probably more broad adjustments to begin with would clear it up, especially in the parts before it builds up, to get that stuff under control first of all. And also you can automate it, like if it's like you've got a part where you want that thickness, then great, but you don't have to have that all the way through. When you've got more tracks layered up, automate the volume, automate a dip in frequency or something, make space for everything, make sure everything's panned in a place where it's not competing with something that's got the too much going on in the same range, and if it has, then control it through automation or whatever.
And sorry, I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing at the comments.
That's alright, you can laugh at me if you want.
Nah, you gave good advice. I think your commentary there is good. Is there anything to add something to that, or do you agree?
I definitely am not as technical as the two of you, but I'm going to take a note from your book. No, wait, Bacco's book, actually. Bacco Vizio, someone who's actually been on here before, he does a lot of panning with his instruments to make sure that they fit within his mix. And something that you might want to try and look at is panning certain instruments completely to one side or the other, not letting them sit in the middle at all, even cutting them out of the middle and forcing them to the sides to make room for your other instruments. Like, for example, say you have really wide chords. You could dip in the mid range and put a lead there to make it more prominent, or you could force the chords to the side, prevent them from sitting in the middle, and put that lead directly in the middle. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here. If you want to clean up the sounds, prevent the sounds from interacting with each other as much, especially if it's detrimental, you can use that.
In this case,
You can
he's talking
also.
about something called hard panning. Hard panning.
Yeah, I didn't know the name for it because I've never done it
Hard
before, but
panning.
I've heard Bacco Vizio do it a lot in his songs, and it actually makes his songs sound really clean. You can hear all the instruments. You can hear the location of the instruments, which is super cool. You can also use during the breakdown. He mentioned super thick Wobbegong. There we go. Wobbegong. He mentioned super thick. You can force everything into the middle during, say, the breakdown section, so you have like a really narrow spectrum before it widens back out a little bit when those really wide pads come in. And then during the drop, you can just slam the stereo, make everything not everything super wide, but you can widen it up a little bit more to really get a harder punch with your drop. The contrast will make it pop more, is what I mean. Do you guys disagree with what I'm saying? Can you guys clean up my lingo?
There's only one thing that I would add, is that like hard panning, like generally I wouldn't pan like anything like completely hard right or hard left unless it was like, you know, two elements of the same thing sort of thing, because it takes it out of the stereo field. So like when you're listening through speakers, you have a natural spill, so you're going to get that space. You're going to hear it in your, say it's panned hard right, you're still going to hear something in your left ear. But if you've got headphones on, you've got something that's now taken completely out of the stereo field, so you've got something you're only going to hear in your right ear. And that can kind of lose, it takes it out of the soundstage. It isolates it. Sometimes it can be too much. I mean, if you've got reverb, if you've got effects that are widening it, then you can still get it to sit. But generally speaking, I don't pan anything hard. It can be very close, but when it's dead hard, especially with headphones on, the stereo field gets a bit, it steps out of that area of where everything is like living and doing its magic, and then suddenly it's like, this thing's like only in this ear. It can have a bit of a negative kind of effect, I think.
As with everything, your mileage may vary.
And what did you guys think of the super high range where usually rides sit? I don't remember what hertz range it is, but it's that really top area of the EQ that just lights up whenever
like
you
6
play
to
a ride.
8K.
How did that sound to you guys?
Fine. I also enjoyed the track for the most part. I just felt it could do a little bit more air and a little bit less squashed. But actually, I enjoyed the drama of the track, and I thought it was a good vibe. So I think it's time to move on. That's enough to work on, I think. Next up, we have Liminality. Memories forced to watch them. This is I don't know whether it'll play through the whole thing, but I'll try and see what it says. Really just overall mixing and mastering advice, along with storytelling aspect of the track and how well that came across. It's a very quiet start. definitely very stereo to the point where you can probably just hear me right in the middle of it just fine.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna try and get at. There's so much space. I've been wanting to use that. I'm sorry.
Space.
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 From around the section around 340, honestly, it was giving me a little bit of a
Space.
chill step vibe, and I think that also illustrated the point that Sleepy Muse said. I think I'm losing track of the chat at this point. That there was too much reverb, and I think it's mainly just the fact that you have to EQ your reverb in a fair amount of places, and also to automate it a little bit. Like, if you're going to have a track that ebbs and flows in your stereo field, then you have to have every aspect of that space ebb and flow. So, like, if you want stuff to be wide, then you need your reverb to sound wide too, but also not muddy, which is why you need to EQ it. And then if you want it to get closer in, automate your reverb time down a little bit, or switch into a second similar reverb for that portion, and it'll then give you that sense of intimacy that you need to make that sort of sound work. And I think especially with those as the chill steppy sort of drums, where it was like a really thonky sort of sound, it because of the way it was spaced, it was still weird for it to sound like the thonk was echoing off miles away when it was like boo, boo, right in my ear. But that's my thoughts on production side, and I'm going to hand over to Wobbegong for your thoughts on, well, whatever you want. What do you think?
I mean, first of all, the intro. It was almost a little bit pointless, some of it, like, to me, because there's it was quite a lot going on. But it didn't feel like it really added anything to me. Once it got into the tune, once it kicked in and I knew what was coming, I was like, okay, I'm glad I waited. But just
but not
too
everyone's
much.
Going to have that patience.
Yeah, just too much of the intro stuff. It just didn't add anything in particular. When it did kick in, I was really enjoying it. But the bass needs some kind of saturation or something. I think it was okay it's a little bit difficult for me to judge with these headphones because they do accentuate the low end a bit, but it definitely, to me, needed some kind of saturation because there was a bit of chunk missing, and a good saturator would sort that out. Good saturator, that would be the first place that I would start. That's the area that I'd be focusing on. Would be that warming up the bass so it sounds thick, and the kick sounded at least at the start of the track a little bit too present, maybe too it was just a little bit of EQ or something just to make it sit alongside rather than on top, because it sounded like it was on top of things rather than being with it. Do you know what I mean? But then maybe with a bit of saturation, those two things on the bass, maybe that would sort out the relationship with the kick. And but overall, I was really enjoying that. I think at the same, like I said with the intro, the outro didn't really add anything to me. It was going left, right, and I was like, why? What for? It just felt like it didn't need to do that. But really, overall, that I was really, really enjoying that. So,
Anything
really,
additional to add there, Sonny?
The left and right bit, before I forget, at the very end, something you might be able to do is actually slow that down. Not slow it down. make it take up less time. And instead of having it progress at the same rate, you could have it start off slowly, left, right, speed up, and then slow back down to exit your song off. And you could do this over the course of, I'd say, like 2 repeats, I think. Not 2 repeats of the wobbling, but like 8 bars, I want to say. You could use that to end out your song instead of what 16 or 32 that you had by the looks of the SoundCloud waveform. The song is very long. It does manage to hold my attention throughout most of it, but it is very long. Um, you could also use blurring in the beginning, the children, to make that transition a little easier. That sounds a little weird out of context. The kids playing sound you had at the very beginning, you could blur that into the super spacious stuff that you had going on. So start it off super clean and then blur it. And that might add to your song. The bass itself is moving a lot, and I thought that was really nice. But going on to what Wobbegong
What?
said, I'm going to struggle with that. I'm going to keep struggling with that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
God damn
Going back on what
Americans.
he said about the bass, what you could do is cut off the sub frequencies of that bass, throw down a really clean sub, a deep clean sub that sits directly in the middle of the mix, and you could actually do like a swelling motion of the bass that kind of paired well with the bass there, the main bass, like a like a kind of offbeat swell hit. Yeah, I know I'm gonna get my ass sampled. It's gonna happen. I am.
No,
going
I just want to hear you do that
days.
sound again, like. Sounds like an inebriated emu. Because I've obviously heard that sound a lot. But no, I mean, like you should just sample Sunny doing that and put that on the track, like.
Just sample me doing stuff like
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
Oh God. Oh dear.
And during the like middle third or first third of the song, or like I think like the second third beginning of the song, there was a lot of sounds that were just on the right, like that were they weren't sharp, but they kept rising every now and then, and they were only ever sitting on the right. If you're using multiple sounds to make that sequence, you could have it like start off on the left and have another sound come in started on the right, have it come up on the left, another piece, and then another sound coming on the right. So you could have
Your
it like
left or my
alternate
right or my
between-
left or your left.
I'm pointing. It's
way.
reversed on my screen. I'm looking at myself on the screen, and where I'm pointing is opposite. So I talk with my hands, all right. But you could pan the different aspects of the sound. You could pan the different aspects of the sound with this way or that, and you could use that to build some more interest. And you could also put some. Okay, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm
No.
right.
I was talking with my hand. Sorry. No, you carry on.
You could also throw more sounds in the middle of the mix, because as Nathaniel said at the very end of the song, you could speak clearly to this song, and you will be heard just fine because of how much not going on is in the middle. I also said in chat, you could use a noise gate limiter to eliminate some of the reverb. So if you have a really long decay, but you want it to keep going, but you don't want the tail of that sound to keep muddying up your mix, you can put a noise gate to just cut off the really low rumble sound reverb. You can just cut that off. You don't need it. You can't hear it. It's muddying up your mix. You can just noise gate that. Get rid of it.
If you
That's
got
all
a
I got.
gate like if you got something like the FabFilter Pro G, which is great, all the FabFilter stuff is fantastic. Then you can.
I literally just use Fruity Limiter.
Pretty
Yeah,
sure we have
I mean-
a fab filter emote somewhere along the way.
But any filter any gate where you can sidechain like an EQ, that's beneficial, because then you have control over, like, the gate can cut in when there's at a certain point, sort of thing. So if it's only low frequency that's kind of left mainly hanging over, that's building up, like if you've got your gate set with a sidechain EQ, you can make it so that that gate's going to cut in like before it ends up just being a low rumble in the background, so you don't end up with this mud or anything. Same idea, just like just a way of getting it to maybe transition a little bit smoother between the high end and the low end.
So that's 2 atmospheric tracks to start with. We're probably going a little bit slower than we normally would, but it's all good commentary, and hopefully that you find that valuable. Next up, we have XE Fusion. Thank you very much for your Prime subscription or whatever Twitch subscription thing. How many months did it say you've been doing it? I don't know, I've lost track. But really appreciate that. We've got Unreleased Space and Silence. He was saying in a comment that it was supposed to be for the challenge, but since he has time to improve and fix it, what is fixable? Also, the vocals are placeholders until I find someone to replace them. It's working. add autoplay. It tried to autoplay. Bad. I really enjoyed that. I agree that maybe replacing the vocals with something a little bit more distinct would be fun, but what you did with those vocals was still really interesting. And I'm going to go the opposite way around this time. Sunny, I'd like to hear your thoughts first, then Wobbegong, and then I'll see if there's anything to add after you've both had your say.
So the one part that I've really noticed had problems, or not problems per se, but it seemed a little plain compared to the complexity of the rest of the track in a way that stood out, and in my opinion, a bad way. You had a brief pause with a downlifter following back into another section of the song, and you could fill that up just like a little bit more with something less simple than a white noise riser, I think. Ways you might be able to do this is reverse a kick at the very end of that, so you have like a bass coming back up from the kick, like that frequency spectrum reverse hitting to start your song back off. You could use impacts, both high and low, to fill up a little bit more space, and then just cut them off when your song comes back in so they don't muddy your mix up. And that might help make that section a little bit more interesting. You could also do something weird and throw like a phaser on your downlifter to get some stereo modulation there, just so it starts moving around and being more interesting. Otherwise, for the rest of the song, I don't really have anything to say other than the hi-hats seemed a little buried, and that you have a lot of stuff going on in one spot, and I imagine there's probably some mud there that you want to sort out. But I'm not technical enough to really point out where it is, and I have a feeling that Nathaniel will actually be able to do that for me. If you want to go next.
I honestly didn't really think that was a major problem, you know? It's okay to sometimes have not all your elements completely audible if it's just sort of adding to that vibe, you know? Not everything has to be like super obvious and smashed, and it was closer to like a guy with, I don't know, like just sitting there going in the background. It's keeping the pace, but it's not really setting the pace, and I think that personally I don't think it's a problem. Wobbegong, what about you? What do you think about those kind of creative decisions?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. There was a synth that came in, and it later on in the track that sounded a bit harsh, like it needed some controlling in the high mids a little bit. Maybe with maybe just an EQ, maybe with a dynamic EQ. I would start with just an EQ. I think it just had a little bit. So, and maybe that's what Sonny was talking about as well, because I wouldn't call it mud, but there was clutter when that synth came in, and it could be real easily fixed, I think. And I saw some people in the chat saying that that it was too busy. I don't think it was too busy. Like there's too much stuff going on. It's just I think it's that one synth that had like that just needed the high mids controlled a bit, and then everything would have just like slotted together perfectly. Yeah, I don't have a huge amount to say on that. I really enjoyed it. Thought it was really good. Sounds really professional.
XE Fusion's always got bring the heat.
There was I don't know if it's the same bit that Sonny was talking about as well, but there was like a drop where it had like there was a little bit of a pause, and then it just it felt like it lost momentum when it didn't need to, and it was the first of those kind of breaks where it had an extra beat or something. I can't remember exactly what happened, but it lost momentum, and like I get the idea of it like delaying the drop, but it didn't quite work for me, especially that the first one, if you know where I'm talking about, because hopefully that makes sense, and I don't want to.
I'm going to
dwell too long
clarify
on that
some.
point,
I'm going to clarify some things about the challenge idea. The challenges aren't meant to be a strict you must use silence or whatever. Last month was thingy. What was it? Reverb and delay. It's just consider how you're using things, and then tell us why you're challenging yourself. Okay, fair enough. All right, so but anyone else who wants to enter these monthly challenges, it's like just look back when you're making something and say, why am I doing things the way I'm doing them? And then how does the theme is more of a prompt to say, what is it I'm doing with this technique? Like in the case of use of silence, it's not use silence, it's how do you use negative space? And if you're not using any, why? And thank you for joining us, Kieran. Please come back next time. There is a stream next week for the EDMP challenge. It'll be on Tuesday. And we got Guilty and Stasis Stigma hosting that, hopefully. Should be good. And I think that if you can get some new vocals... Is it XC Fusion or Z Fusion? I can never really figure that out. But anyway, if you can get some vocals that aren't like not placeholder, perhaps you can reuse those as textures for your anti-drop breakdown-y bits. Like even just like make it doesn't have to be super loud, just sort of in that backdrop of the noise is fading out. If you can give us something that sort of resembles human something, our ears will just naturally gravitate towards it and take interest in it, even if it's not loud or crazy or anything too. But yeah, like you hide something, maybe a little bit of whispers or spoken word or something, just in that negative space, just a little bit, and you can kind of trick us to paying attention. And then we get the drop, and it's like.
It's like
you
what?
could throw an ambient tone on the root note of your key. You could also do that as well. Like, just pick some random pad or like an ambience or something, throw it on the root note, and just keep it playing on that exact note.
Trumpet.
That might help.
Don't get, but not your trumpet, since you can't play it.
Well, I mean,
I want to hear you play this by the time the stream's over, man.
no.
But
yes.
Yeah, you
I can
can
play the
play
guitar,
Megalovania
the
on the trumpet.
Play what?
Megalovania
Do it.
on the trumpet. Thanks.
That's not the right button.
All right, next up.
That's not the right button.
Citros.
It was.
No.
There we go.
Stop. I will mute you.
I'm sorry. Please don't hurt me.
Citros with tar. I assume it's in like the substance you put on roads and stuff. Needs some feedback to see if anything is too much, such as the bass or any sounds at all.
Fix the bloody potholes. It's a nightmare.
I think we can talk a little bit over this bit a bit, just to gather your thoughts. I think that we've not hit the drop yet. Is there a drop meant to be a drop in techno?
Yeah, the last time I made techno, I had like a minute and a half or like 2 minutes before I ended up hitting my drop, and I didn't even have drums in my drop. This was like 2 years ago, so that's the last time I made something like this.
When I make techno, it's only drops. There's nothing else. Just drop. Just drops.
I like this wobble bass. I just hope it doesn't carry on for too long without change.
I think for me, the actual introduction of new elements is on time. The issue is that you're only partially playing with your stereo wheel.
Yeah, if you're gonna
That was a
play...
bit much. That was a bit much. It's a cool sound, but
if you're
it's
gonna
just
play
like
this much in the stereo field, you gotta move it around a little bit.
I also think that maybe some of the bass, that growl sound, you can go lower with that. Almost go Mongolian throat singer with it, like. I can't really do a bass.
I've tried to learn a bit of that, you know. I've actually got.
That's the best I got.
I've got these audio lessons. I had a bunch of lessons in a book. So,
it's like.
I'm not going to try to do it because I'm out of practice. I managed to get somewhere with it. It was very painful, and I know it's not supposed to be painful. But I got to the point where it wasn't painful. I was able to do like one style a little bit, and then I was like, do you know what? This is ridiculous. I'll leave it to them. I can just sample
Do you
them
guys
doing
think
it.
this would
Like,
be
why
good
am I
in a
even
club?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you guys think this would be good in a club, or do you think the bass would just be too much? Like, I know if you're playing in a club, having this kind of very samey rhythm works really well for that kind of thing, because you're dancing as well instead of just listening.
I did actually type some notes up while listening to this one. I think the mix is quite muddy, like overall. The clap that comes in, that sort of clap snare at the start sounds kind of like thin, but maybe it's not thin, and maybe it's just that like there's no space for it. I really like the low, like there was a low vocal thing when that first came in. That sounded really cool, and I like the idea of this kind of like swamp bass thing, just being like, you know, all over it. But it was lacking some kind of thump, like some chunk to it. Maybe the kick had too much sub. I don't know. But there was something with the bass where like I love the idea. It just needed a little bit like of taming. It sounds like there's things where there should be low end like rolled off, like things should be high pass filtered that aren't high pass filtered maybe, and it feels like it's building up quite a lot of mud. You know, possibly that's not the case. Maybe that mud has come from like the way that the track's been processed, but that's what I'm kind of hearing, is that there's a muddiness that's getting in the way of that real, like kind of like really feeling the weight of the bass. So just controlling the low mids, making sure there's like low mids or ultra lows that are clashing, that are getting in the way of the lows of the bass. And I think like the more percussion coming in earlier would be cool. Like there was the hi-hat idea went on for a long time, and I thought like, you know, I would like to hear maybe another maybe sharper hi-hat or some other percussion element come in playing some kind of 16th note kind of pattern a bit earlier, just to keep the energy and the build up. I mean, this is obviously a very long track.
Yes, it's still going.
And I don't think it needs to be this long. But it took quite a long time for it to change into, and I'm not sure it really needed to change. Like, I feel like maybe this is 2 tracks, to be honest. Like, I love what, like, at the start, you know.
I think for me, the
where-
breakdown as well is in a different key to the rest of it, and it's in a way that's actually jarring. Like the dun, 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 but it's not in the same key as your bass. So you got your bass going dun, 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 dun. And so maybe you should actually have any breakdown melody riff off that as your root, like the thing you return back to. So it's rather than dun, 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 it's dun, 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 or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah, making it so it doesn't hit on every 4 beats. You could have some stagger to it, like that would help a lot. Like a little bit of swing
standard in
action.
techno, and but then it means anything else you put into it has to sort of cater to the fact that your bass is monotone. It's sort of, it's not atonal, but it really makes it very rigid in terms of key and how you make any melodies sit around it, because it sets the expectation, and then the minute you go more than a few notes away from it in one sequence, it's like what is even happening at this point? You know, they're meant to be in a trance where they're just like yes, and then not surprised by the completely.
There's one thing I wanted to say that I forgot to say. Yeah, the hypnotic element is there. You know, like I feel like once the mix is a little bit more under control in the line mids, it's going to accentuate that hypnotic element. But then, like, yeah, when you're bringing in changes, definitely, like, you know, like Nathaniel was saying, like, they've got to be gently introduced, because if you're just dropping something in suddenly, it takes you out of that trance kind of, you know, you build up all this kind of, like, hypnotic kind of feeling. If you drop something in too suddenly where it's changing that, it's going to kind of detract from everything that you just did to get you there. If that
Maybe we
makes
should
sense.
just stream on Tuesdays if people are.
There's a lot of people who turned up this time around. It's kind of nice.
You're
I'm normally
joining.
I'm normally teaching guitar on Tuesday evenings, so
That's we got lucky.
I usually
Yeah.
work Wednesday evenings, so I can't even really speak in chat much less hope or jump on like I did today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have both you. This is Wobbegong and Sunny Skies. Although since he's been butchering Wobbegong's name, we're gonna butcher his name too. He's gonna be Sunny Skis.
No, he's done pretty well with it.
You could
compared to
put
like, to be fair.
sussy flies.
Next up, we have Lost With You work by Stasis Stigma. Thank you very much, Stasis, for sending a submission in. He's a regular donator at this point and hosting the EDMP Challenge stream. He hosted last one. He's co-hosting the next one with Guilty because they're swapping around. I thought it'd be fun if they did that. And I just like making things more complicated myself because I'm having to tech everything. This is a whip in a big way. I need to work on transitions and some mastering, but I'd like feedback on the vocal processing and a general vibe of the track. Be harsh.
Blind, the path is gone. Where should I turn? My eyes burn, tears fall, bold shadows grow weeping. I'm lost, but I'm happy to be lost. Trees tearing my skin, life closing in. I've left behind such pain. I only remember sweet dreams, but I'm happy to be lost. I blame myself for all your pain. I'll take it all away. I blame myself for all your pain. I'll take it all away. If you let me in, I'll turn your night today. I haven't seen this ever before. It doesn't seem that I make you smile anymore, but I'm happy to be lost with you. I blame myself for all your pain. I'll take it all away. If you let me in, I'll turn your night today.
That was really fun.
It was, wasn't it? I'm going to let Sunny speak
was, like,
first
super
on this
pleasant.
one.
Okay, so the entire song definitely kind of it runs along with its theme, and it sits very well in its theme. And I'm not entirely sure if it needs any variation or not, because I can't really point out any one part of the song that's distinctly different from the rest. Um, so I'm not entirely sure how I want to feel about that. It could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, it depends on your intent. Um, as for the second half of the song, I would actually love to hear some vocal harmonies and layering. Maybe a chorus, maybe a second voice singing alongside the main male voice. Um, Maybe a female vocalist in like a almost childlike tone, like the not super full gospel kind of sound, but like a really bright, cheery female voice that replaced the male voice in the second half and made the storytelling a response to the first half of the song, like lost with you, the being like a significant other of yours, and she's singing her response back to you. And I think that would help with the storytelling. Mix wise, I wasn't paying attention. I was enjoying the song too much. I'm sorry. That's all I got.
Okay, well, Wobbegong, anything else to add to that feedback there?
Yeah, I mean, like it's interesting what Sonny said about like not really noticing any distinct different sections, because I didn't either, but I hadn't noticed. Because like it sounded like it was flowing and moving and doing everything that it needed to do, and like I didn't need it to do anything else. I didn't want it to do anything else. It was form wise not something that I picked up on, even though like retrospectively, like actually yeah, did it really like cover any different sections? I'm not sure. Or was it just a kind of like build up and ebb and flow of things, like but definitely again I agree with Sonny that the layering I want to hear some harmony in the vocals, but for me, I don't want to I don't really want to hear a new singer. I want to play on, because there's some quite obvious auto tuning in the vocals, especially in some sections, and I would play on that more and create harmonies using that where it's like more obvious. Create harmonies with the same voice, maybe even the same take, you know, push it to extreme, see how it sounds. That's something that I would play around with. But yeah, I don't have too much more to add. It's enjoyable. Possibly the vocals could have a little bit more dimension added to them with the reverbs and delays or whatever. But really, it's the harmony elements that I felt were lacking, and the way I wanted to hear them is that kind of stuttered, forced auto tuning vocal supporting the main vocal. I was just hearing that in my head, like if I was making this tune, that's what I would do, and I was like, I want to add this in. So yeah.
Sonny boasting about his choir boy skills in the chat.
I mean, I did sing in a choir, so it's not untrue.
You can hit C5. I don't know what I can't remember what my peak at this point is. I'm not necessarily most well practiced either, so plus obviously I can hit those low. Although that's not even the lowest. An actual bass voice can go a lot lower, like C2.
Oh yeah.
B1.
I think I can go pretty high, like.
You sound like a velociraptor.
I was going for guinea pig, but I'll take that. Like,
or a pterodactyl, like. Raw!
I don't know if a pterodactyl.
Guinea raptor.
What note is that?
I think I agree with the. God damn it. I think I agree with Deer in the Headlights. Stasis, one, learn your words. A lot of your seeming reticence in your song and vocal performance is likely just because you haven't quite memorized the words and the way you want them to perform them. And that can obviously introduce a sort of unconscious lag between when you actually singing what you're singing and getting the timing right and all that kind of stuff. And while you can shut up, Sonny, otherwise I will mute you.
I'm just looking for I'm looking for my melodica because I've got one right here too somewhere.
No, why are you?
I have my microphone muted. What audio am I running from?
No,
I muted my microphone.
Well, I could still hear you.
I got a bugle here.
Yeah. So, basically, I will turn you both down. I will just stop it, Sonny. I'm trying to say something useful. I'm gonna mute him. This is revenge. He can't speak now. Bunch of children disguised by adults. That's pretty accurate. Anyway, Stasis.
Nathaniel.
Yeah, I can still hear you. I just muted Sonny.
Okay. Knock knock.
Who's there? Not Sonny.
Interrupting sheep.
The
interrupting sheep.
It says what? Bar? Ugh.
Never
I
mind.
completely lost my train of thought now.
Just mute me as well. Honestly, it's probably going to be for the best.
Anyway, Stasis, if you want to talk about your vocals and when did you guys become comics? I think these people are just naturally crazy. I don't know.
I'll blame this.
You blame the wine. I think Adele has a song like that. I drink wine.
You sure that's not like Amy Winehouse?
No, I don't know. Maybe it might be a cover for all I know, but I'm sure Adele's sung it too. Alicia is gonna whip these guys.
I was just thinking of Rehab. I don't know any of.
Alicia's But if you go on YouTube, go and watch the stream I did with Isha when I was with her in Valencia, and then say that she needs to whip us afterwards, because we were both pretty crazy on that stream too. So, yes, our YouTube channel has all our VODs for feedback and friends. Way! Advertising over. Next up is Moldy Soul, who is responsible for this abomination of a stream. It's your fault.
Thanks.
No, Wobbegong, you're innocent in this because it's Moldy Soul's fault. Boom. Bring the Owls. It's an older track that never got round to releasing. Don't know if it's past its sell-by date. So, chat, is this dated or is it not?
Will it bring owls? That's the most important question.
Of course. Who? Okay. Hello. Chat should be working. I'm just coming back. Come on. Sorry about that. Okay, I figured out the problem. OBS crashed. Not sure entirely why, but it did. So, because I tried stopping the stream and it wouldn't let me, so I had to completely close OBS. And, sorry about that. Yeah, the song stream. I don't even know why. It's not like it's using a huge amount of CPU or anything. I even offloaded Volt onto my laptop, so it's not running off that. I don't know tech things. This is why I know that if we paid for like restream stuff, there's like stream backups and stuff, but no, we'll just have to deal with the blip. Sorry about that. Did I don't know whether everyone in the chat was able to even hear the track properly with the buffering. So if you'd like me to play it back again, or I'll start in the middle, roughly when it started noticing the buffers. So I'll start here. So, now we've had a chance to listen to the track better, and it might have seemed a little bit longer when it was buffering as well, which probably wouldn't have been a helping. I think I agree with the track being a little bit shorter would help it because the loop is fairly minimal. And what do the stuffed animals think about bringing the owls?
Well,
how do you have an owl stuffed toy just for this moment?
Honestly, I did not even plan this. I didn't know he was going to play this track. I've never heard this track before. I just happened to have an owl hit. I mean, to be honest, the track didn't deliver because it said it was going to bring owls and it only brought one. So, sorry, Rich. You know, next time I expect more owls. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And now I have a new friend. So that's my feedback. No.
Okay.
No, it's great track. Possibly a little bit of thickness. Again, I'm going to come back to like talking about saturation. Possibly there could be some saturation, or maybe some. Maybe try some different EQs or compressors that are a little bit more coloured on some of the sounds. But I mean, I can't there's nothing I can really say. I mean, it's a great track. I think it could be a bit warmer around the low mids, and that could give it a little bit more kind of oomph, like a little bit more presence in places. That's what I would experiment with. But yeah, fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyed.
So Sunny, any additional? Did you suddenly change your hair, or are you wearing a hat? I can't tell.
I'm wearing a hat. No, I've got an afro on, actually.
Just suddenly had a haircut and got more hair.
Yeah. I brought the comrade hat. Ho ho ho! Time to drink
Alright.
some vodka. Anyways. I want to make sure my voice changer isn't on. Okay, I was worried there for a moment. I had it set up so I could say something weird when you unmuted me, and I didn't want to interrupt the song whenever I was unmuted. So, I kind of want a little bit more interest with the arc that you had going throughout the entire song. I really like the swing to it. I almost want it to be fuller. Like, I almost want the cutoff to be a little less, and I want it to hit a little bit longer as a pluck, almost. And I think you might even be able to modulate that, because I actually really liked the arpeggiate. I really liked that throughout the song. Also, calling back to the previous track, I can't distinctly tell what parts are different in this song compared to the others. I definitely got kind of lost in the song, despite its complexity. And if that's what you're going for, then you got the right vibe. But if you want the listener to be paying attention to every little thing, you need to bring in a little bit more variation and a little bit more contrast and change if you want to really catch a listener's ear and have them listening to all the little minute parts. But otherwise, this was just the vibe. I was sitting here vibing. So was the fox I had, because my owl, I can't find it. I have it somewhere.
You have an
here,
owl
but
too?
I can't find it. Yeah. I've got a 3D printed owl out of filament that I gave to my dad, so that's at my dad's house right now, and I have a little stuffed plush owl somewhere in here. I don't know where it went. I also have a snake. I couldn't find that either. I have a
Well,
really
you're just
long
losing
snake.
everything.
Like, yeah, evidently. I moved out of my parents' house and everything is just...
There's a monkey now.
Or
orangutan.
yeah, there's a monkey.
Face palm.
Next up, we have
Yeah, that's
Dream
what I
Bells
wanted to mention.
with.
I have a sock.
You had something else you wanted to mention, Sonny?
Nope, that was all.
No? Okay. So that's this next up is Dream Bells with Wander Whip 25306, I think. Near final version, would like general impressions. Do you like it? Any insight into what stands out to you, good or bad? Are the ideas good? First time doing vocals, do they work? That was very pretty. I honestly don't really have
It
any
was
notes
very
for this
entertaining.
Yeah.
Was it entertaining enough that you two just decided let's just mess about with masks and
I
completely creep me out?
yes.
Yeah.
No, I thought that was brilliant. I also don't really have. I couldn't pick anything specific out that I really wanted to say. I just enjoyed the tune. I don't think there was anything jumping out in the mix that was sounding uneven or anything. I think as the producer said, the first time they were doing any kind of vocals, well, I think they did a great job. Yeah.
Well, then yeah. Sonny, any other notes, or you likewise think that it's basically done? Because I think it's basically done.
I think it's
can't
basically done. I love the song. Like I was sitting there vibing to the entire thing. I was just enjoying it for what it was worth. You know, it was worth a lot. Like it was an awesome song. I loved it.
Well, good job. You win. You win the prize. So we don't recommend
None of
it.
us have anything to say. We enjoyed it too much.
I'd say, well, the piece of advice that I give whenever I finish tracks to myself, just go and double check your referencing. Listen to the track in the worst possible environments. If it holds up reasonably well on crappy Apple earbuds or a mediocre soundbar or whatever, then you're good.
I think the balance was really good though. There was nothing jumping out.
Yeah, I have a
nothing
feeling it'll
sounding-
translate really well. I don't really have much. Tarnith here might have something a little bit me. Great sound selection. Oh, that's my TV dying. That at least it's normal. Great sounds, like the great sound selection. And guys, maybe it's a stream a little bit. But I take a look at the 5 to 7K, not a huge amount, but maybe a little bit 2 dB off there, which yeah, makes sense. It's always just worth double checking, crossing your eyes.
I can't call. Yeah, I can't call that, kind of 2 dB. I can't call that over these headphones. If through my monitors, maybe, but it sounded good. It sounded balanced to me. I wasn't hearing anything jumping out or sounding harsh.
Next up, we have a short submission by Donna. What booze are you drinking now? What is this stream? I'm losing my mind here. Haven't worked on the verse or chorus, mainly focused on the drop right now. Wondering what you think of it. I've been trying to fix the sweep up to be timed better. Not sure if the build up or drop is good and if it needs improvement or not. This is Careport by Donna.
My heart is racing tonight, and I start feeling if you could just see me with mine. And then I'm reading, words don't seem right. Trust me, you'd have to be there. Baby, words don't seem right. Trust me, baby. I wanna love you, baby, baby. I need someone to care for. I wanna love you, baby, baby. I need someone to.
interesting talking point here, at least personally. Whenever I think of dance music, I always equate the drop and the chorus as basically the same thing. I don't know about you guys, but it's like, even in a track that's got like a chorus and like the way it's pop chorus and then maybe a drop, it's really just chorus part 2. You know, like they kind of have to be thematically connected for it to make any sense. And so
I typically change it up by adding different notes to my chords. So I'll have triads in the very beginning, and then I'll add a ninth or a seventh to my drop to add to the song. Maybe invert the chords, spread them out a little bit, bring the third up an octave, or bring the fifth down an octave. Things like that is what I'll hear, or what I'll do.
Yeah, a lot of the time I don't bother with. I mean, the fifth a lot of the time is just not even needed. I mean, it depends on how you're voicing things, exactly what you're doing with the chords, but yeah, definitely. In terms of how you arrange the chord, yeah, I agree. Adding a lift after a drop, adding a extension on the top with the chord, adding a 7th or a 9th or 11th, 13th, whatever. It's all good. Any inversions as well, but yeah, a lot of the time the fifth can just like go. And also, like, you know, when you're adding more layers to, maybe if you have an instrument at the start where it's playing the chords on its own, then you're gonna want a fifth in there. But then after the drop, maybe you're gonna have more stuff going on. Get rid of the fifth because it's like not really needed. But
you can also use different instruments on different parts of the chords.
Yes, exactly.
Something I've actually done in the challenge track that I'm working on right now. The top note of my chords is actually a lead sound instead of making my own dedicated lead. It has a little bit of flow. It really needs like its own melody to it, but it's literally just a lead sound on the top, a really wide synth plug or pluck with really tightly grouped notes at the top. And since the lower the notes go, the further apart you need to space them for them to still sound coherent, I have a different, thicker pad in the bottom with the notes more spaced out as they go down, and then the bass sitting below all of that. And that's how I build my chords a lot of the time, especially because those high notes, you can put them close together and still hear all the notes. But if you do it low, it doesn't work so well.
Yeah. We'll come back to the track at hand in a second, but just to like you're saying, I mean, the stuff that I've been working on just recently was a soundtrack for this game, Rewind or Die, by Comp 3 Interactive. That's going to be released on PC. I think hopefully at the end of this month. There's no official release date yet, and it's going to hopefully come to consoles as well. Anyway, so I got to play around a lot with that, and I'm quite into classical music, and I basically one of the main pieces of music, the kind of main fight scene I've arranged for like a whole orchestra. So that's like spreading all of the different instruments, different layers of each chord across the whole orchestra to fill those parts. Exactly the same idea you can do with synthesis, spreading out the chord across different instruments. But yeah, specifically that last tune, I found that very enjoyable. Nice groove. Possibly. I don't think I really wanted it to go anywhere else, like into a new harmony or anything, but possibly a little bit more build up in kind of depth to sort of look like have a little bit more ebb and flow of the layering overall.
I've actually got a suggestion. So you have a very, very standard house piano, like that is in a lot of songs like this. and you also have it hitting on 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was thinking you might want to try and break that up a little bit by introducing maybe a little swing or hitting on the offbeats. So I was saying da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Something like
Well,
that, where
if you
you
want to lean
brought a
into
little
more
bit
of
of
the
variation to
2014
the rhythm.
EDM, as was the comments section, 2014 EDM. Yeah, why not? Go for it. It's only dated if you don't
So-
really listen to that
No,
stuff much.
it's section. It's 2141 right now. Actually,
2141? I thought it was
Yeah.
2142. I think you're off.
You got a higher pianist for
Wow.
$6,400. Okay, I think that it's time to move on before we get too weird. This is Altered State by Chaos Shaman. They're
You
looking
have
for
both
general.
of us in the same room. You're not gonna.
Yeah,
win
I'm
that
regretting
battle.
everything. I regret
there's a
everything.
tiny man on my head. He's
I don't
staying.
have a tiny head. Hold on. Let me see.
General feedback appreciated. Still in the mixing phase. Need some work on the sound design and the transitions. Altered State by Chaos Shaman.
I've got a wheel.
Oh God, what is this with? Just a second. Go back to there. Please go back to there. OBS just is like no, and temporarily
No.
ate itself again. At least it didn't completely crash this time, but I have no idea what's going on with my. I might have to
But
reinstall.
I could hear. I could hear everything. I could hear all the music. Like.
Oh yeah,
I
your
miss
end is
nothing.
fine. Sonny, I will mute you and never turn you back on.
Please.
I'm sorry.
I probably have to reinstall OBS or something, and because it's likely freaking out forever. I don't know. I will fix that at some point, I'm sure. We'll just have to make do in the meantime. Your thoughts on the transition? I think in terms, before I let you guys speak and go too weird, I think that in terms of mixing, it's actually going to be relatively easy to mix because all the sounds are very complementary. There's not a huge amount of clashing. If this is the pre-mix, it means you've chosen your sound design well. So, Wobbegong, why is your name moved off to the side? I tried fixing.
Why you got a
breaks.
sidelining, man?
I figured like it was all sounding nice. Like again, there's nothing that was like massively jumping out to me. With like drum and bass tracks, sometimes like I hear like the too much like sharpness on like the snares or the hi-hats, and or maybe it's either one way or the other, that there's something that's jumping out being too overcompensating, or on the other side sometimes muddy with the layering of the drums. That was sounding generally pretty sweet to me.
So, Sonny, any additional thoughts? Or are you just gonna...
Drum and bass. This is my
Drum-
thing. I love drum and bass. I don't know if I'm particularly good at making it. I noticed that you kept more or less the same drum beat throughout the entire song, with the exception of the break beats you have scattered in between the drum and bass sections. I was thinking you could probably vary up the rhythm of the drums in like different changes, like maybe after a break beat you go, you know, things like that. You can change up the drum rhythm, and you can change from to,
Or you just
could
sample
throw
the
in
game and
occasional-
break like everyone else does.
Well, but
I make my own breaks.
I break my own
Oh,
makes.
I break my own makes breaks. What's up?
I like tofu.
No.
I will add to that a little bit. No, because I think there's definitely that, like what Sonny was just saying about like mixing it up a bit. I was getting a little bit too into that, and I forgot that I was supposed to be listening critically, because you know when I'm just vibing, you know, and there's nothing jumping out, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I was like, I got into it. But yeah, you know, variations on the breaks, you know, there are things you could do, these little micro breaks that you can do in between sections. So if you've got your main beat, whatever, and then like after 4 or 8 bars where there's a transition, or where it's not a major transition, a break where it's more raw, where you're not having your kick like and your snare like, if you got like a raw break, even if it's like a dead simple thing, just drop out to like a raw kind of jungle break, you know, even if it is just an amen, like you're part of an amen, like whatever it might be, that kind of thing can sound real sweet. If you just drop out into something that's raw to break it up a little bit, but also with the rhythm. So the main boom ka boom ka, whatever, second half of the amen.
Yes,
right?
stuff like
Whatever,
that. I love that.
Put that in. I like, you know, more delayed snares, ghost snares. Use a different snare for ghost snares. Maybe chuck in a couple of other break beats and try them as variations, where you want the whole kind of depth of things to change. So again, on like these like I call them like micro drops or micro breaks or whatever. You can chuck these kind of very small ideas in, and what I tend to do is I tend to chuck in too many of them to begin with, and then I work subtractively. So like if I have like a drum and bass track, and I'm like, okay, so it's basically the main beat all the way through, cut. Quite often I'll end up overdoing it, putting in breaks and micro drops or whatever you want to call them, and then I strip them back, take a little bit out, think, is this too much? Does this break sound cool? That's the first thing. Does this break sound cool? If it sounds cool, then it's probably a good break. Does it sound like it's the right break for that point in the track? That's the second question. Does it even sound like it's the right break for that track at all? Will probably be the third question. So just have fun, experiment, making things that are going to mix up the beat quite a lot, and then be ruthless with yourself, because you can always come back to these old. You can save the breaks as audio, or you can just save the MIDI, or you just come back to the track, take things out that you think you might use on another track. Allow yourself to play around a bit more, and don't you're not locked into that. The groove is your pocket. You've got the pocket. The pocket's not going anywhere. So fuck around, come up with new ideas. If you end up with too many ideas, there's no such thing as too many ideas. It's just maybe too many ideas for that one track. Save them, use them on another track.
Brilliant, good advice. Next up, we have Misfit, who they're looking for. Just general... You got one more thing?
I was gonna go over a rhythm that I've been working on in a drum and bass song. Just reference how you can change up the beat.
Is it quick?
The one I had. Yeah. The beat goes. Now hold on. Let me give it another quick listen. All right, so it was that's the rhythm I went, and then I went. Yeah. That's the rhythm I've got, and that's a very non-standard drum and bass rhythm.
Yeah. All that stuff, fantastic for mixing it up, drops and changes between sections or whatever. Yeah, more of that.
That's all. That was all I wanted to mention.
Okay. Fair enough. Hopefully that whatever that was will be useful. Next up we have Misfit. They're looking for just general feedback. This is Fading Memories, I Still Love You.
All I want is to see you. All these memories fade. I don't know what to do. Do I walk away?
So I'm gonna start by saying good on you for doing your own vocals. So we've had a couple of those tonight, but it's always I know it's always nerve-wracking doing these sort of things. Nobody really likes listening to themselves. So good on you for just taking that leap and doing it. I think that a lot of what people are picking out as it sounds like they came from the bed, woke up and started singing, is the fact that there's a little bit of a nasal quality to the voice. And I think a lot of that is to do with how you're singing, more than your voice being specifically that quality. It sounds like you're still a little bit too in your speaking tone, where you're just sort of letting it rest at the base of your throat. When what you really need to do is let it sit in your chest, so you can have the whole vibration and get that through. And then maybe even get a little bit closer to the mic. You can let the distance of the mic work for you. If you don't feel like you can belt, get a little bit closer. And don't worry about trying to belt. Just figure out how to make sure that you're still controlling the note that you need to hit. So you can do this and that without stressing out your voice.
See you. Something like that.
Although with
Maybe.
a better mic.
Maybe,
Maisel,
yeah.
pretend there's a candle in front of you that you aren't trying to blow out. That's a good way of thinking about it. And obviously as well, if you've got your DAW up there and you're monitoring yourself, you can see when you're spiking and to get that balance right, you've got the gain on the mic hopefully, or in your interface if you plugged it into one of those, and you can just experiment a bit and get that balance right of where you feel comfortable standing and the actual gain of your inputs that you don't clip out, because that would be obviously bad. So, any further commentary from you guys on anything else?
Yeah. I think like the balance, like where the first time
Back? I'll say
would
nobody
be too.
Sorry, you're
group-
gonna have to start again. The stream just died. I'm sorry.
Well, this is absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. It's not right.
No, it's fine.
Oh,
yeah,
boy.
so
The
I'm joking.
I think.
No, so all I was saying.
Come on.
All right, we're
Why is
back.
I don't even know if we are though, because
We're
OBS
back.
is not showing you guys.
Well, everyone's saying we're back.
Yeah, but look at it. It's gone. Where have you gone?
Our faces, at least we don't have to look at you anymore.
Great, thanks.
Aw.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that.